Hello and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt-out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So today, how to beat procrastination, but not really, because as you know, I don't really do hows, but I think this is probably the closest to a how that I might get in this space. And really the how is a raising of your awareness. And I commented on something, I think it was yesterday on LinkedIn. Well, it will be LinkedIn. I don't really go on any other social media these days. And it was about I've completely forgotten what it was about. I've completely lost my train of thought. Blimey, that's something that happens to me all the time. It was about, somebody wrote about self-awareness. See, it comes back when you don't focus on it too hard. They wrote about self-awareness and how important that was, and I commented that I prefer awareness of self. And by the self, I mean this illusion that we are living in, that there is even a thing that's a self. Because what is that really? It's just a collection of thoughts and ideas and history and concepts and things that we've learned as we've grown up. But having some awareness that is part of, that is the process by which we create all our experience, is really, really helpful in navigating through life and navigating through this thing where we have things to do in the physical world. There are things that we want to get done, and there is a huge amount of cognitive dissonance, which is where it almost seems like there's two parts to us. There's a part that wants to do something and the part that goes, no, I'm not doing that. And really getting some awareness of what the challenges are and what's actually going on there. Not in a too self-analytical way, because I'm not sure that's particularly helpful, but really in an awareness-raising way. And so this broadcast kind of came off the back of my live that I did, the session that I did yesterday, where I was talking about how, the idea that a task is supposed to float your boat, that in order to do something, it has to be something that you like or it makes you feel good. But, tasks don't really have. It's a huge responsibility to give to doing your bookkeeping, isn't it? They're supposed to make you feel good. It's a responsibility to give to anyone or anything. But I would say especially bookkeeping. If you're a bookkeeper and you love it, then you won't understand this at all. But a lot of us find it quite a tricky thing to get our heads around and get done. And so a lot of people commented on that and talked about how they, that once we actually start a task, it's never as bad as we think it's going to be, bookkeeping included. Once you actually start doing the bookkeeping, it's not that bad. So the first thing to notice about that I thought that came to mind for me was, once you're doing the task, you're not really thinking about the task. Now, bear with me on this, because that sounds a bit counterintuitive. Who's got my teeth this morning? It sounds a bit counterintuitive, but it isn't really, because actually, once you're doing the task, you're actually in the detail of the task. You're not in the story about the task. And that's the real distinction, I think, is that a lot of the time when we're thinking ahead of time. We think we've got a story about the task, what it's going to be like, how it's going to be so awful, how long it's going to take. That's the super duper story that we like to make up. When we're actually doing the task, we're not thinking about the task, we're just doing the task. And a lot of that, even if it's something we have to concentrate on, it doesn't take as much thinking as the advanced thinking we were doing before we actually started the task. And that's probably why, I think it is why, tasks never seem that bad once we're actually doing them, because we're doing them, we're doing the doing, and there's a lot less thinking involved in that than there is in the story. So what's going on, and this is where the awareness piece really comes in, is why is it that a task feels awful before we're actually doing it? And that's a lovely clue that that we've been given, really. How on earth can the task itself, I'm going to stick with bookkeeping because it's one of my ones that I can procrastinate over, although I'm doing very well with it this year. Watch me submit my tax return in April. Watch this space. Where we make up, why does a task feel so awful? Like, how is it that bookkeeping feels like an absolute nightmare? Some people, I'm sure, were still doing it on the 31st, which was Tuesday, wasn't it? A couple of days ago. Some people were probably still doing it, or doing it over the weekend running up to that. Why is it that it feels awful before we're actually doing it, but when we're actually doing it, we kind of go, oh God, this really wasn't that bad. Whatever put it off so long? Now it's a bit like, oh, because I've got to rush it and I feel like I'm running out of time. I'm going to have a fine from the HMRC, blah, blah, blah. And then it does feel. And what I'm thinking as I'm saying that is it feels awful. And so then the next time we think that probably feeds into the story that we have about how awful it is to do bookkeeping, because it felt really rushed and uncomfortable when we were doing it. So what's happening really is that you think you're Dr. Flipping Who, or other time traveling superheroes are available, although I can't think of any. I'm sure there are some. I'm sure in some of the DC stuff, in the Marvel stuff, I'm sure they do a bit of time traveling at some point. I know there's a bit in Superman, back in the day old Superman, where he spins the planet backwards because to save Lois Lane from dying or bring her back to life. So, it appears, doesn't it, there's some time traveling going on. Now, those characters, Doctor Who and Superman, whoever else, are doing physical time traveling. Your time traveling is a little more subtle and a little more difficult to see because it's in your head. So if we did all have like a sign going up going, you're time traveling now, you're in the TARDIS, we probably would have a little bit more awareness, and maybe wouldn't do it so much because, and here's the really important thing, if you are not doing your bookkeeping, even if you are doing your bookkeeping doesn't have the capacity to create a feeling inside you. However, your future story about the bookkeeping and how awful it is and how hard it is and how long it's going to take and how it's whatever else, that future story in your head does have the capacity to make you feel bad. And that's it, really. Like, we've been gifted with this amazing psycho-spiritual system that it lets us know when we are caught up in a story about life, particularly a future story. There's kind of two options really when we feel a feeling. Number one is, I think that feeling is coming from the outside world, from a task I've got to do, like bookkeeping. Sorry, bookkeeping's getting a bad rap here, isn't it? But, there's a task in the world, I'm thinking about this task I've got to do in the future. It starts to feel uncomfortable. If I think it's the bookkeeping creating the feeling, then it will make perfect sense to not do the bookkeeping, to avoid it, to stay away from it, because it looks like as I get closer to it, to doing it, it's going to make me feel even worse. I don't want to do it because it feels bad. And also perhaps with, like I was saying before, a little bit of that oh, well, last time I did it, it was all rushed and horrible. It felt horrible. Well, because you'd left it till the last minute, and that doesn't feel so good, does it? So there's all that story, a little bit of the past dragged into the future, nothing to do with the actual reality of the present moment. And then there is, then there's us avoiding it and not doing it because we think the feeling is coming from the task. Now, this is where there's almost like I feel like a little junction of where the awareness comes in, is that if we are aware of the self, if we are aware that there is a system at play inside us that is A, creating a story about bookkeeping, B, therefore creating a feeling inside our bodies that feels pretty icky, and C, then trying to find a way to get us away from that in order to relieve the feeling. When we realize all that's going on inside us, then not doing the task gets less like something we're likely to do, because we just might take a breath and feel our feet on the floor and just do the thing. Because we know the feeling's not telling us about the thing. And actually, the drive to do the thing starts to become more prominent in our awareness rather than the drive to escape the thing. Because we all know leaving bookkeeping, really, logically, what's logical is that leaving bookkeeping to the last minute kind of makes it a bit frantic and a bit of a bit likely that we're not going to get it in time. And then there can be a build-up of really uncomfortable feelings. Again, fearful feelings about the future, but still, we don't want those either, do we? So how to beat procrastination is through awareness. To be fair, how to beat flipping anything, whether it's procrastination, overeating, or not getting enough exercise, or, anything, not putting ourselves out there in our businesses, or, not selling, or whatever else it is. It's how to beat everything, really, is awareness of your system and how that system really works, which is, of course, what I do. I teach you that. And I teach you how to get really deeply into it so that it becomes more of an automatic awareness rather than it takes a bit of practice, but it becomes more of an automatic awareness. And it means that you navigate through these moments when you don't feel okay in a completely different way. Less avoidance, less kind of pulling away from things, more just getting on and getting things done and flowing through life, really, I think, then. With yourself in the present moment, there's just bookkeeping that needs doing, and it's not really a thing to have, to have that much feeling or thinking about. And it certainly isn't something that we need to avoid, because it can't hurt us, bookkeeping. It may feel like it sometimes, but it can't. So that is how to beat procrastination. It really is through a raising of awareness rather than anything else. That you might have tried tools, techniques, strategies, breaking it down, whatever else it is. That still might make sense to do those things. It's very different when it makes sense to do those things from a place of understanding what's going on inside you. So I hope you found that helpful. Please do sign up to the 5 Simple Truths to take you closer to calm. People are finding that really helpful, getting some other feedback from that. So please do bob into that and explore. It really does give you a little bit more about what I'm sharing here. And reach out for a chat if you'd like to explore more and have more calm in business and life and everything. Take care. Lots of love. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.